Hello, everyone, and welcome to Auto Asphyxiation. This is Lark.
And Kimberly.
Hello, and today we are talking about a serious topic. We're always talking about serious topics, but last week, Jason Arday, a scholar at Cambridge University, unalived himself after being attacked with unrelentingly, online. I would call it a digital lynching, as I would say. And the thing about it is, it's a pattern of behavior that I'm noticing. And this is whether it's journalism, aca- um, ac- academy, which is, higher ed, art. It is this thing where Black people are used to amplify hegemony like an institution and then thrown away once a certain fad uh, is no longer in fashion. Um, and you know, I think this Jason Arday, he is was part of that, but it's also kind of part of what we were talking about last week. We talked about DEI and how not that we did not um, support the idea of equity, um, inclusion, dismantling power, but especially like to me, really, DI just means pro working class, but also it does also address the things that such as racialization, sexism, and all these kinds of things. But the powers that be essentially decided, well, now that we don't do this anymore, this is in the UK, well, we're going to start searching for things about him. And as a person that was part of the academy, I want to say his this is not about his plagiarism, but I want to be really clear. When you're as a high schooler or junior high, and if you didn't go to higher education, when you hear plagiarism, you think somebody took like somebody's entire article and then just tried to put it off as their own. I want to be very clear that they call it plagiarism if you say, I am, okay, I say this, say Kimberly said something, and I go, oh, Kimberly said this the other day. Like Kimberly made a really great point about the fact that single family homes, that wealth that you get is going to go away once your parents go into a nursing home. Now, if I said that, even acknowledge that I got it from you, but I don't cite it correctly, that is viewed as plagiarism. So but when the average person hears plagiarism, they think, oh, this person actively was dishonest. Whereas his case of plagiarism was more about a technical issue that if the internet existed prior to 1980, a whole bunch of people would be, guilty of this so-called plagiarism. I'm not saying that we should not be technically shouldn't cite things correctly. But it wasn't like the way people who haven't been to the academy knew it to be. And so I want to kind of go around that issue and talk about what I think this is and what we think this is. So I mean, a lot of times institutions like they elevate certain people, and you've seen this, right, Kimberly? You've seen what think about I like to use what's her name? The flute lady.
Lizzo.
Yes, Lizzo.
The flute lady.
And essentially, oh, and I can't help but notice Ozempic came out, and all of a sudden, all the body positivity people went down in flames. I don't, and Lizzo, all of a sudden, she was a devil. Like, and I'm like, well, it's just a coincidence. Yeah,
So
maybe.
yeah, it's just a coincidence. It just happens to be a coincidence.
Yeah, Ozempic came out. Now she's the devil. So these are things that happen, and the thing that's unfair is that so many people are used They're used to sell records. They're used to get people to come to their university. They're used to do all kinds of things. And there's so many times where people have tried to use me. And as you know, Kimberly, I will not be used. I will be the one. You will be bending, not me. To that's a public culture. That's a cultural reference. If you remember when Janet Jackson was in a movie, I think it was Waiting to Exhale. No, that's not what it is. Anyway, those of you who know, you know. And there's this kind of like idea is that, institutions don't hire, don't, and you know what? And here's, they don't want you to be a critic. They want you to be a happy, uplifting, like a symbol. And I don't want to take away from anything that Jason did. Because the thing is that sometimes when you go into these conversations, someone like me goes into the conversation, it's like I'm bashing people who naturally are, you know, I want to bring people together. Like I think he said something like, if you had a superpower, what would you do? He said, I would take a thread and I would sew the world together so everyone loved each other." Which was like, oh. But there are people who hate people like that. And go
Well,
ahead.
I think it's also important to mention that he was neurodivergent, and he was also upheld and tokenized as not only being Black, but also being neurodivergent at Cambridge University, and like being neurodivergent also falls under the DEI umbrella. And neurotypical people have a backlash against neurodivergent people, like inherently for whatever reason. And when neurodivergent people say things that are really vulnerable, like I would take a thread and sew the world together so that everyone could love each other, a lot of neurotypical people are like, eh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you talking about? And that's what he thought people were honest. And I think this is the thing that just irritates me about this whole situation. He was coming at everybody like they were making a good faith argument. As a person that, as a person, I think in a way that has a like almost enhanced social skills. And I shouldn't even say that enhanced being able to read the room, even though to read the things that are not being said, because I don't want to like insult people. I know what happened to him. Not I don't know what happened to him, but I suspect he thought people were being honest. And so he was giving honest responses. He didn't understand that people were using him. Not like he was like, well, I've done all these great things, and not understanding that there are certain people they can't focus. And like he actually did run 30 marathons. Like we were kind of like, no one does that. Like kind of like somebody who is autistic and they go have like, oh, I know I've counted and visited every single train in the entire Western Hemisphere. For a person who like a neurotypical like normie, we'd be like, "Oh, you didn't do that. You're just saying that. Like
Yeah.
you're just making that up." And I know I have said my husband is like, neurodivergent. And I've had to tell him, hey, sometimes you have to lie because people assume you are lying. So they're going to take what you say and put the spin on it that someone who is neurotypical would say because they don't believe that you're telling the truth. So you have to and the thing is that that's horrible. People have to do that. But if you're autistic and you are in an academy, in the academy, you're at Cambridge, you are in Great Britain, like the place that loves to come for people. I mean, I feel like coming for people, the
That-
Inquirer, like the United States got nothing on Great Britain, like nothing. Like they will just. I remember when I went to England and in high school, and I got bagged on to a point. And as you know, Kimberly, I am the bagging queen. I am good at coming for people. I'm like, I'm a skilled practitioner of the insult. I went there and I was outgunned by 10-year-olds. So that place is no joke. Um, but the thing is that, now that we have a situation where a whole point is now that we have a situation where, oh, DEI. So that means autism. We're no longer, ableism's back in style, racism's back in style, everything is back in style. It's like, well, now we can find something on him, and now we can't just let him go or a tap on the hand. The thing is that they had seen that plagiarism. It was, as I said, it was nothing. It was a technical error. It wasn't like, oh, he just like, Melania Trump, who actually literally took.
Took Michelle Obama's speech and read it pretty much word for word, just with a Slovenian accent. Like,
That it was not anywhere. That's why they just gave, that's why it was a tap on the wrist. It was nothing because it was literally nothing. And so the thing is, this is that the reason why they have these laws, not laws, these rules and guidelines is so when something does go wrong, they can go, well, see, the reason that we're getting rid of you is because you weren't perfect.
yeah,
You made this one mistake, you know, you have a blemish on your record. You went to jail one time. You smacked someone in the face one time. So it's like, okay, things that all humans have done. But the things I can go, see, if you had just been perfect, we wouldn't have to throw out not just you, but everything that's DI related. Because the thing is that with him, with Arbre, it wasn't just that they threw him away. They used him as a symbol as to why in Great Britain, or in Cambridge, they shouldn't have DEI. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and
And that's really, and as a neurodivergent person myself, what really pains me about Jason is that because the backlash was so severe, and like you said, it was a digital lynching. Neurodivergent people who have ADHD, people who have autism, suffer from something called rejection sensitive dysphoria,
mm-hmm,
where it can be a real rejection, it can be a perceived rejection, but they feel that as almost a physical pain.
mm,
So I really empathize with him in this kind of like backlash over like what you said is essentially nothing. But then they use that as an example as to why DEI should not be allowed or upheld at Cambridge University. The online backlash was so severe. Like he felt physical pain and it affected his life and his well-being to such an extent that he felt it necessary to unalive himself. And I think every neurodivergent person has been there to some extent where they've been rejected at work, in a romantic relationship, at school, whatever, like, and the instant, like the physical pain that hits you in your body, the first thing that goes through your head is, well, I should just not be here anymore because why bother? Like, and it can be something stupid and something small, like, but it can trigger like a cascade effect that, if that, um, in his case, that rejection and that backlash was ongoing for such a long period of time that he wasn't able to get over it.
yeah, and this is the thing, and I want to also point out that the ringleader for this was Nathan Kofnas, American philosophy postdoc researcher at Ghent University in Belgium. So just so you know, I'm pretty. He's from Chicago, Illinois. Clearly, there was some haterism going on there. He was super jealous, and the fact that people allowed this kind of jealous, doesn't even have tenure individual take this man down. And the thing is that this is, again, there's a larger picture. It's not even the thing is that we're talking about Jason, but also we're talking about this idea that people want to take the good, whether it be with someone with autism, whether it be someone who is black, whether it be, take the good, like all the funding. Like I think about with urbanism, it's like, oh, we've got these black people on staff, so we have to do like recreation, health, equity, environmental justice. But oh, do you get bike lanes? No. Do we extend public transit that is not commuter rail, but like local public transit? No. And you know, and instead they do things like, they had number one, they had him doing way too much stuff. And this is something that happens so much with people who are instrumentalized. They have them, he was speaking, he was doing talks, he was writing a book, he was doing all this stuff. And so then it's like he couldn't even do the work that he needed to do as an academic. Like, just like now, I'll meet people who are African American within urbanism, and they're doing stuff like bike rodeos, they're doing stuff like bicycle giveaways, they're doing all of this really stuff that's not. And I don't want to like talk about people. Like, I think it's really important that we have people who are doing great things. Like, we have Charles Brown. He wrote a book about uh, Charles Brown's book. Let me try to figure out what the name of his book was. Now it escapes my mind.
Well,
Um, Go
when
ahead.
you while you look that up, I also just want to mention that Nathan Kofnas, who was Jason Arday's main critic, is a scientific racism advocate. Um,
Oh,
he has published blog posts in which he argued that Black people are less intelligent. In the post, he wrote that in a meritocracy, the number of Black professors at Harvard University would approach 0%. So there's a reason why Nathan went after Jason Arday. I don't know if you can
yeah.
see what this fine example of white supremacy looks like, but
I've never actually.
that's
It looks so good.
that's
Yeah,
that's public record. So, this is from the Wikipedia. I know
yeah,
we're not supposed to source them, but I mean that, so this is the first time that I've learned scientific racism exists. So, yay. I'll have to
yeah.
delve into that. Anyway, go ahead.
No, no, no. But I mean, this is important. Not yeah. I guess I should say. The thing is that so many things have happened, and so much racism has happened that sometimes I forget to bring it up because I'm like, well, of course he's a scientific racist. Well, how would you know that unless you were actually like looking at this? Okay, so Charles Brown, Equitable Cities, Tamika Butler, We Are the Road Crew, Veronica Davis, Inclusive Transportation, and the thing is that, and they'll put people as keynote speakers, they'll essentially publish a book, but in regards to and going, oh, see, example of, see, we're doing something, but while people are still being run over on the road in hyper segregated America, while the academy is still mainly men, mainly white, but also very clear, mainly upper middle class. You find even very few working class white people in the up and higher ed. It's even worse. I would think, you know what? I don't even know if it's true. I'm saying it's worse in the UK. I don't know that. I'm speculating that it'd be worse in the UK because they do have more advocacy in regards to working class type issues. But that's also the case in the United States. So you have a situation where you're using people as tokens, but you don't have they're not on, they're not deciding policy in urban planning. They're not deciding policy in regards to how in course of how academia works. Can you imagine what the urban planning departments look like? Can you imagine what engineering departments look like? These are, if because the whole like scientific racism and the ideas of Nathan, these are not things that are like, oh, these are just random ideas that only a few people have. You look
No,
at journalism.
these are ideas that have existed since even before Nazism and fascism took hold in Europe. Like these ideas have existed for a very long period of time.
Exactly. And so even within journalism, the reason why he was able to get lynched via the media is because many journalists believe the same thing. It is the reason why Kimberly and I have a very challenging time in regards to getting in, getting funding, getting support from the larger from the larger media world, because essentially journalism is a domain for white men. So, because essentially, we can write about women, I can write about Black people, but the idea of us critiquing a larger system, well, we're not even human beings. We're not even human beings, because the point of scientific racism isn't just white people are better than Black people. That would actually be kind of okay. Not saying that's good, but the argument is when they say there's no race but the human race, what they're saying is people who are Black are not human. So this is not even about I'm a better human than you. No, it's so much worse than that. It is you are not a human being. You aren't even a human. So how can it be like to them? Him teaching is like animal in a cage. I don't want to use a reference people always use, but it's like an animal in a cage teaching at Cambridge. It would be like I would be viewed as, oh, how can an animal write about hegemony, write about political economy, write about these things when that is a domain? And this is how this is how the whole media was able to come for him, because there are so many people who are in positions of power who actually believe this is true. His ideas and his feelings, and but this is also why it's so easy for people to go, oh yeah, we could totally just use this Black person to get funding, to get things, and not even care about it. And then, like, the minute it becomes not popular anymore, just drop them, because it's no attachment, because they're just an object. It's kind of like, oh, now cockerdoodles were popular, or pit bulls were popular. Now the thing is cats. So let me get rid of this cockerdoodle. Let me get rid of this pit bull and get me a better pet. Because I need to have a better pet when I go get my coffee. I'll let you talk. I'm like,
No, I see the point that you're making though. And you're absolutely right. And especially like if I may knock on Britain for just a moment, but it especially seems very easy in Britain for people, Britain, the colonizers of the world, to have an undercurrent of not viewing Black people as human.
yeah, and just the whole idea is kind of like they're like, okay, your only position is entertainment, and the same thing now in regards to like urbanism. Our position is to entertain, to be the keynote speaker, essentially participate in the sadomasochism, which is race, which is a conversation about race. We come in, like, I've gone to conferences where essentially they'll have Black tracks. So essentially the DEI track, which all the DEI's people are on one track. Like, so it's like, if you don't want to see that, you can literally skip it. They'll have the keynote speaker come up and be like, you guys are all racist. And they're like, ooh, it's like they're getting beat, because they're into that. And then they go right back. Like, they get their jollies off. Like, ooh, that felt good to be called a racist. I feel bad. Thank you. Keep beating on me. But I'm going to continue to do what I do. I get off on this, but I'm not going to actually change my ways. It's not. And I feel this is something that is a thing, where it's like, as long as you're just saying stuff and you're not making sure you're not doing anything, and as long as we can pay you and we know that you're going to only take it as far as the keynote, we know you're going to be taking it as far as being a consultant to get people to go, yeah, we should up them this area. Should we change the area medium income? No, that's too hard. It's like, just right on that edge. And so it's like, you know, you can, as soon, and as you see how I am treated, Kimberly. I don't take their money, but as soon as you ask for protected bike lanes, as soon as you ask for protected public, not for frequent public transit, car-free districts, mixed income areas, get rid of parking. As soon as you demand, AMI, essentially, changing the AMI so we're not using the AMI in order to make affordable housing. As soon as you challenge market urbanism, as soon as you challenge Chicago school economics, And you start talking about law and political economy, you start talking about feminist urbanism, you talking about socialism, then not only do you get cut off, they will literally try to erase you and act like you do not exist. And, because the whole goal, your job is to be a token. And when we need to get rid of you, we can't have you have made any change. The fact of the matter, which is really sad to me now, is that the defunding of DEI literally has not changed the conditions of your working class Black person, because nothing was actually done structurally yet. And I'm not saying this is the same. It is great that your consulting company got a contract. It is great that middle class people, they got consulting contracts. It's great for middle class Black people that you got keynote speaking gigs. These things are great. And really, it was only like two of you. Wonderful. I'm happy for you. And I'm sad that you were not able to continue that. But for the conditions of the average working class or poor Black person, which is most Black people, which is a lot of people generally, the defunding of DEI for urbanism and even for schools, for higher ed, did not change the material conditions that much, which shows how ineffective DEI was in its how
Well,
it was done.
I think it also shows how unserious they were about DEI and about actually applying these things to the people who would be most impacted if they actually did anything. And a lot, I mean, you and I have discussed that, when DEI became this like umbrella term, that it was mostly just like a corporate flowery term for, hey, like this is what we're doing. We like Black people. And as soon as the political winds change, they go ahead and change along with them and start cutting DEI programs and whatnot. And I think that, I think that when they start cutting these programs and they start looking for people to get rid of who fall under the DEI umbrella, I think it proves that they were insincere and unserious from the beginning.
Exactly. Because if you look at what they said, like again, if we could take everybody's thesis from 1980 prior and put it through the computer like they do now, I'm sure a lot of people would have made some technical errors, especially too. Your people were typing stuff up back in the day. I'm sure they were like, you know what? Good enough. I mentioned them. Good enough. And that is the whole thing. The fact that you could just remove a person and then all of a sudden the department is gone. This is how you know that something is it has not changed the institution at all, because Cambridge was I would like to know how many other Black people were at Cambridge.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually afraid to look. And we can look it up right now. Cambridge University. Let's see here. Tenured. How many tenured Black professors at Cambridge? It says Jason. I mean, like, it just says, it literally says like less than 1%. So they have no one's name. So that means he was the only one.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah. No,
Stunning. And the amount of pressure he had to have been under. Amazing.
it just, and it goes to show how unserious these institutions are about DEI people. If they were at all interested in what they were tokenizing him for, then they would understand the kind of impact that this backlash could cause him.
And he had done so much in regards to all of his various extracurricular activities, which are turning out to be actually true. He actually did all these things. And you're just kind of like, so in order to get to Cambridge, I have to be 12 when I graduate. I have to overcome a whole bunch of stuff. I have to have run 30 marathons. I have to have all this. And then if I do one thing wrong. Of course, he was an extreme. I'm gonna say this. I'm trying to say this respectfully. He was a person that did lots of things that other people didn't do. He took things to, like, extreme levels. So of course, if he gets hurt, like you said, what you said, he's gonna be hurt in an extreme way because he was a person that felt things deeply, that did things deeply, that took things very, very seriously. And so that thing that made him so wonderful and so much like, oh, we found it. The ring, we found him, is the very thing that took him down. That energy that he had was the very thing that took him down. And the thing is that he should have had support. He should have had people around him. And this whole, like, you know, um, after the fact, Monday morning quarterbacking, like, oh, we should have helped. You know what? I'm sorry. Some people who are in academia now talking, I'm like, you could have said something. But you know what? Everybody who's in academia is afraid that they're going to become for. The only reason it's okay to talk about this now, because at first they were like, well, he wasn't perfect, so we can't really say anything. But now that he's dead, we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
And you know, this is one of the problems with this whole situation. You shouldn't have had to be perfect, and he shouldn't have had to die before you said anything. And I think, like, with that, we're gonna probably wrap this up. But is there anything that you would like to say?
Well, I just also want to say, that intensity, the marathons and everything like that, he was neurodivergent. Like, and neurodivergent people feel emotions in a very intense way, in an almost physical way. And, shame on Cambridge University, really,
And the
and for
and the
everybody
BBC
and the
and the
BBC
BBC.
who came for him in this way, without really understanding the intensity that neurodivergent people feel.
Yeah, just shame on everybody. Shame on everybody for not protecting this precious man, who leaves behind a wife and two children,
And two children,
two young
yes.
children. How are they going to live now?
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you all so much. And we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for listening.